Joy. That's the topic of the month. How many people left here last week and started playing with joy? How many? A couple of handfuls. Awesome. So you guys actually listened and started playing. How fun. So I just want to do a quick recap on that. So what we said last week is, number one, it belongs to you no matter whether you know it or not. So in other words, this thing called joy is always there. It's always swirling around us. It's there. It's just sometimes we don't pay attention to it. The other thing I said was, it's yours now. So in other words, it's not something that we have to wait for. Of course, I always say this, unless you think it is something you think you have to wait for. If you think it is, then you're going to have to wait for it. But the truth is, it's on. It's on all the time. But it's yours to discover. So what we don't think is sometimes we don't think that it's out there, so we don't bother taking the time to look for it. We don't. We sit there and go like, well, it's this has to happen, this has to happen, this has to happen. And so we don't really take the time to look for it and discover it. And what I'm saying is, it's there. You just got to look for it. You got to discover it. And use it. The name of the talk last week was Joy, My True North. And the point of the message is, use joy as the thing that's guiding what it is that you're doing. That's what it's there for. That's why God planted that seed inside of you, to do what you truly love, to do what you truly enjoy. And yes, you're worthy of it, and yes, you can do it, and yes, you can follow it, and yes, it will make a difference in your life when you do those things. So, when you put all of that together, what does it really say about joy as I was thinking about that? Is that what it really comes down to is that it's a practice. Joy is a practice. It's like anything else. It's like any other skill set that you're going to develop. But it's something that you have to do on a regular basis, if that's what you want. Now, some people don't either think they're worthy of it or don't think that it's something that you can develop and practice. They don't. And so guess what? They don't, right? As I was researching this, I came up with a little clip from one of my favorite authors, Brene Brown, and I'll let her do the talking for this.
I think the relationship between joy and gratitude was one of the most important things I found in the research. I wasn't expecting it, but what I found, 12 years of research, 11,000 pieces of data, I did not interview in all that time a person who would describe themselves as joyful or describe their lives as joyous who did not actively practice gratitude. And for me, it was very counterintuitive because I kind of went into the research thinking that the relationship between joy and gratitude was, if you're joyful, then you should be grateful. But it wasn't that way at all. It was really that practicing gratitude invites joy into our lives. And when I say practice, I think this is the part that really changed my life. It changed my family and the way we live every day. When I say practice gratitude, I don't mean kind of like the attitude of gratitude or feeling grateful. I mean practicing gratitude. These folks shared in common a tangible gratitude practice. They either kept gratitude journals. Some of them did interesting things like at 1, 2, 3, 4, like at 12:34 every day, they said something out loud that they were grateful for. They, one of the things that we do, like we say grace at dinner. And so now after grace, we go around and everyone in my family says something they're grateful for. I mean, and what's interesting is when we first started, I have a first grade son, Charlie, and 8th grade daughter, Ellen. And at first I thought, and we've been doing it for a couple of years now, like they were like, oh God, Mom. And there was a little like, this is, are you experimenting on us? There was a little bit of that. But now what's interesting, even after we did it for like a couple of weeks, that on those crazy busy nights where we're trying to like get to soccer and piano and homework, and Steve and I are just like, we say a quick prayer and we start eating, my kids are like, whoa, what are you grateful for? And it's been extraordinary because not only absolutely does it invite more joy into our house, it also is such a soulful window into what's going on in my kids' lives. So there are some days when my 8th grader will be like, I'm joyful that there's a huge thick wall between my room and my brother's room. Something just very, honest. But there are other days she'll say, she had a friend whose mother recently died, and she said, for a month she would say, I'm just so grateful that y'all are healthy right now. And so not only did it make us all more aware of what we had and more willing to slow down and really be thankful for the joyful moments we had, but it let me know where she was emotionally in her life. My son is always, I'm grateful for bugs, I'm grateful for frogs, but sometimes he'll say, I'm grateful that you picked me up early, or, I'm grateful that I finally understand adjectives, So there's a great quote that says, it's not joy that makes us grateful, it's gratitude that makes us joyful. And it's by a Jesuit priest. And I guess I was just amazed to find that bubble up so strongly in the research. It's life-changing.
A tangible practice. Did you hear that? Tangible. That doesn't mean you hear Mike talk on Sunday morning and say, oh, this thing called joy is pretty cool. I think, it sounds like a good idea. No, it's a tangible practice. And so what I wanted to do this morning is talk about what a tangible practice, some of the things that we do, Lee and I do, together, but the hope is that there's something in here that you'll take away when you leave here as you're thinking about creating more joy in your life, that you will sit down and create a tangible, real, consistent, regular routine that you're doing so you can have more joy in your life, right? So one of the things, before you go to bed, sit down and write 5 things of which you're grateful for. That might be something you could consider doing. That's a pretty powerful one. Anybody do that? I got a couple hands up for that one. A positivity journal. Just every day, write down something positive that happened to you. Something. It could be so simple. It doesn't have to be like this life-changing thing. Just make it simple. But have a journal. Again, tangible practice. Tangible. I'm doing it consistently on a regular basis. Perform random acts of kindness. Yeah, random acts of kindness. It could be anything. Maybe it's just saying hi to somebody at the gas station when you're going in to pay. Maybe I don't know, I've done this a couple times. Anybody ever do this one? Anybody ever pay? You ever go through a toll booth and pay for the person behind you? Yeah, do that one. That one's kind of cool. I mean, you almost feel giddy when you do it. You're just like, oh, it's cool, right? Exercise, believe it or not, exercise. And I don't mean guys going out and running marathons. I'm talking just move. Move your body. Just move your body, whatever that means for you, whatever it means. Have a spiritual practice. How about some meditation? How about some breathing? How about some visualization? How about some affirmations? How about some mindfulness? It doesn't matter. What is your spiritual practice? Do you have one? Add it to what it is that you're doing now. It'll go a long way. A long way. Some other things. Giving back. Regardless of what that looks like for you. It looks like it differently for every single person. Just give back. This is one that we like to do. So my wife walks around and she always wants to know, tell me a secret. Tell me a secret. Tell me a secret. And really what that means is, tell me what you noticed about me today that was kind of special and something that you didn't ever notice about me before. And she's got I swear to God, I could ask her right now and she could rip off 25 of them, like literally. And for me, sometimes I got to sit there and think about it. But my point is this, it brings me present and it makes me say, am I paying attention to what this amazing human being called my wife and my soulmate and my partner, what we're doing together? Right? Practice self-acceptance. How many people just cannot possibly look at themselves and go, you know what? It's okay. You're doing the best you can. I accept you just as you are. You don't have to change anything. just as you're standing right here, right now, I'm just going to love you for who and what you are. Practice self-acceptance. Laughter. How many people feel like they laugh enough? Yeah, I didn't think so. Me neither. Laughter is such a wonderful thing. Obviously, it's so joyful, right? Laughter is such an amazing thing. Letting go. How many people have a hard time letting go? I think we all do. I think there's all little corners of our lives where we struggle with letting go. So these are just different things that you can do. But what I would encourage you to think about as you're going throughout this day and again as you leave here, come up with a tangible practice on how to create more joy in your life. That's what this is all about. The other thing, it's a matter of focus. What I want to tell you is that what I know is that it's a matter of what you're focusing on that's going to make all the difference in the world. Why do I know that? Because I can stick two people and put them in the exact same situation, and they can have two totally different experiences. Have you ever been involved in a situation where there may have been a handful of people, and you noticed how different your experience was than the other people that were with you? Have you ever had that experience? We all have. Why is it? It's because what are they focusing on? What are they focusing on? I love this quote. The joy we feel has little to do with the circumstances of our lives and everything to do with the focus. Everything to do with the focus. How many people know who that is? Ernie Harwell, the famed broadcaster for the Detroit Tigers. Ernie was a broadcaster for 55 years. The mark he left in baseball is historic. He's one of the greatest radio announcers ever in Major League Baseball, ever. He started working with the Tigers in the early 70s, but in the early 90s, Ernie was let go from the Tigers. And for those of you that remember, I will tell you that they didn't do it rather gracefully. In fact, a lot of people, fans, were outraged at the way that they did it. And I'll never forget, Ernie was being interviewed on the radio, and the person that was interviewing him was just livid at the way the Tigers handled it. And they kept asking him, what about the Tigers? What about the organization? What are you going to do about it? Are you going to go after him? Are you going to sue him? And you know what Ernie's response was? I am so grateful for this organization. I've been part of this organization for 20 years. I've seen the Tigers win a World Series. I get to spend the days with some of the most incredible, amazing athletes, not only that are on the field now, but those that I've worked with over years and years and years ago. Some of the greats, some of the bests. This is one of the greatest blessings I've ever had in my entire life. And the announcer would come back and go, yeah, but what about this, Ernie? What about this? No. He just wouldn't do it. He refused. What was he focusing on? Ernie knew what brought him peace. He didn't need all that stuff, and he wouldn't engage in it. He just simply wouldn't go there. And then guess what wound up happening? They brought him back. And then he spent another 20 years broadcasting for the Tigers. That's what he did. But he never, ever spoke poorly, ever, about the Tigers, no matter how poorly he was treated, ever. He didn't do it, right? One of the last things I'll tell you to do is to keep it simple. And I think it's really ironic that in Leah's meditation, she was talking about how we have a tendency to complicate things when it comes to joy. So some of us, how many people do this game? I'll be joyful when, let's start making the list, kids. Let's see, new house, new car, better health, better relationships, more money. How many people do that? Yeah. There's no way that I can be happy now because look at the circumstances in my life. I can't do that. Well, okay, you're powerful, you're a creator, you're divine. So, guess what? No joy, because you're telling yourself you can't until all these things happen. That's one way to do it. That is one way to do it. But guess what? There's another way. Guess what that way is? I'll be joyful now. In other words, I don't care what's going on. I get it. It looks crazy. what's going on, but what I do know, that if I focus on things, certain things, that I can have joy now, regardless of what's going on, regardless. I can. So I made a quote that said, when you can find joy in the simple things in life, you will live a very joyful life. It's the simple things. It's the simple things in life. That if you can find joy in those simple parts, then it will fill your life. They don't all have to be home runs. They don't all have to be these amazing things. It could be simple things. It could be waking up and taking your dog out in the morning and watching your dog run around the backyard. It could be smelling a flower. It could be touching base with somebody and just saying hi. Julie last night posted in Facebook a quote that I thought was really beautiful. It said, I truly appreciate kindness. I appreciate people checking up on me. I appreciate a quick message, those who ask if I'm okay. I appreciate every single person in my life who's tried to brighten my days. It's the little things that matter the most. That's the most powerful part of that quote. It's the little things that matter the most. Thank you. Thank you. It's the little things. But we have a tendency to get caught up in our lives. We get a tendency to run around so fast. We get a tendency to look at all the things that aren't working, and then guess what? Where does the joy go? It's gone. Why? Because we're not focusing on it. And we get caught up in everything. And we all do it, right? Guilty as charged. Guilty as charged. You know, and another thing that I want to bring up before I wrap up is, look at your life. And if there's something that doesn't bring you joy, why are you doing it? Seriously, why are you doing it? I'll give you an example. Way back when I was fascinated by politics, fascinated by it, and I would spend hours and hours and hours reading 15 newspapers a day, and I would dive into all this stuff, and I would look at it. And the more I got into it, you know what happened? The more frustrated I got, the more mad I got. And I did this for years. Until finally one day, after something happened, I can't even remember, it was years ago. And all of a sudden, after I got upset, I was like, Mike, where's the joy? Where? In this, and all this that you're doing, and all this time you're spending, where's the joy? And I couldn't answer the question. There was none. None. Do I want to know what's going on? Yeah. Do I still vote? Yeah. But do I spend hours doing something that brings me absolutely no joy? No. No, I don't. Why? Because joy is really important to me. Being happy is really, really important to me, and it isn't doing that. So I just don't do it. And so I would say, if there's something in your life that you're doing that isn't bringing you joy, you may want to consider doing something else, or at least not doing that, would be my suggestion. So to recap it, in terms of joy, remember, it's a practice. And what kind of a practice is it? Tactical. In other words, you're going to be able to name, this is what I do. And so my challenge to you is, figure it out. If that's important to you, right? There's no rights or wrongs or shoulds or shouldn'ts here at all. It's just, what do you want? If you want more joy, and that's important to you, then find some practices and do those practices. For Brene Brown, in her research, it's gratitude. You guys know I'm a big fan of gratitude. So if that works for you, apply that. It's a matter of focus. Remember, it's just a matter of, what am I looking at? Do I want to look at what brings me joy, or do I want to look at the stuff that doesn't? That's it. It's pretty simple. You don't have to complicate this. Just keep it simple. And so in closing, I just want to, number one, say how much I appreciate you, each and every one of you, for everything that you do, whether this is your first time or whether this is something you've been doing for a long time. You are appreciated here. Every single one of you that's been here a long time or a short time, you guys all contribute. And I just think there's so much more that we can do, because as I look at every single one of you and I acknowledge the divinity that's each and every one of you, and if we can start doing that together and we do it more and we do it more and we do it more and we do it more, then what's going to happen is people are going to start responding. They can't ignore it. We will become a beacon of light on that hill. We will make an impact in this world. We will. Why? Because you're that powerful. You're that powerful. But we just forget, right? We just forget. And then, so what do we do about that? Well, we come together at various times, in various scenarios, and we remind each other. Oh yeah, don't forget who you are. Who's that? Oh, I'm divine. Oh, that's right. I'm connected to this big thing called my divinity, and this big thing called God, or whatever you want to call it. Awesome. And there's a lot of different ways to do it, right? A lot of different ways to do that. And so let's come together and remind each other this is what we're doing. This is what we're up to. This is what the planet's in the process of doing. It's transforming. It literally it is. Ignore all the garbage out there that's trying to tell you that we're going to, where in a handbasket. We're not. We're waking up. And as Eckhart Tolle says, in order for the pain to come, it's got to come up to go out. It's got to come up to go out. In other words, it's got to come to the surface in order for it to be released. Guys, we do that individually, and we do that as well as a consciousness together, as a human consciousness. All the stuff that's coming up is just pain being released from our human consciousness as a whole. That's what's going on. But yet, if you get caught up to it, and you start watching the stories, and you start buying into it, then all of a sudden you start thinking, oh my God, what's going on? I don't look at the world this way at all. I see us waking up, really. I see us waking up, and I see each and every one of you that I know, we're waking up. We're all waking up. And if we can walk around each other, with each other, holding each other, supporting each other, loving each other, praying for each other, guess what? This can happen. Not only this can happen, this is going to happen. I promise you that. This is going to happen. We're going to make that kind of an impact on the world. You guys up for it? Yeah, me too. Thanks. Thanks. Can we have the